Hi, so today I wanted to do a video about my favorite tool for retro computers. Not this, but this. This is a computer. You can see it's a tiny computer. This was made by Chattel XPC. I think XPC is a model. I don't know, Chattel is a company. Whatever. What it is, it's an amazing tool for working with all computers. This is my bridge computer. That means this can work with several hard disk interfaces, floppy disks, and tons of ports and interfaces. So what is cool about this computer is that it has everything you need, or well, mostly everything you need to talk to your new computer and your old computer. One of the tasks I mostly do with this is disk imaging. You can see here I have some cables hanging out. This is SCSI, so I can interact with Macintosh hard drive, Unix stuff, and everything related to SCSI, zip drives, everything works great here. And this is IDE. I have a laptop hard disk adapter right now, and that helps a lot because I deal mostly with laptops for some reason. There is also some molecs, the floppy connector if I need to connect a floppy, and I have a drive right here. This is just a 3.5-inch drive because I mostly deal with that. I don't use too much of 5.25-inch drives. So, and if I need to use one, I just open this thing and plug in one right in because the BIOS supports that. At some point, I want to get a floppy cable here so I can plug in other drives, but for now, this is enough. On the back, it's interesting because I have some stuff like the SCSI. This is the high density connector, so I can plug in like JAS drives and other stuff that is external. Serial ports, so I can deal with modems, PDAs, everything that can interact over serial. This has two, which is even better, so I can test a mouse, for example, a serial mouse or something like that. Or I can use it for copying files over slow serial, like using LabLink or Interlink, and that kind of DOS utilities. Also, this has PEA for the monitor. It has two FireWires, so I can connect camcorders and hard drives. That's mostly what FireWire is, I think. Ethernet, so I can connect this to the network and move files around. USB, of course, so I can plug in a thumb drive and also move files if I don't feel like connecting this to the network. PS2 for keyboard and mouse. Audio, I have never tested audio here. This is really I use this thing as a tool. Haven't run anything related to sound, but it should be doing it. It also has sound over the optical connections here, and it has parallel. But I needed the connector for something else, I removed it, so I need to reinstall that. But over parallel, you can also do file transfer, use those parallel port hard drives like this. Give me a second. Like this, for example, this is a parallel port hard drive. Just plugging it there, and you get 200 megs of data. Let's do a quick check inside. Let me move the camera a bit. Be right back. Okay, I'm inside the computer, and you can see it's mostly used by a big, long SCSI cable. What I have right now is this Western Digital PCI card for the the SCSI drives and the SCSI port on the back. This also has an AGP port, so I can test mostly any kind of card from the PCI and AGP era, which is great. I don't use it too much because I'm mostly on like the pre-PCI era stuff, but you never know. This thing has 512 megs of RAM, 2 sticks right there, 256 each. The IDE cable that goes to the front. There is a couple of fans here, and the cooling solution in this thing is quite overkill. As you can see, there is a cooler here that is connected to this fan right here. But it's great. This thing doesn't get too much hot, even with, you know, this cable inside that really is not helping with the cooling system. Anyways, let's rotate this thing. And you can see I have the floppy drive mounted here in one of these bay adapters. And for storage, I'm using a 32GB SD card. Nothing amazing about this, just a good solution because I can remove the card and make a backup of this. I do it like every couple of months or so because I keep the images here, but I mostly move stuff to quickly archive on the web or archive into my file server. So for that, just a 32GB file I back up every couple of months. So that's mostly it. This thing has on this side the power supply. You can see this is it's a Chattel branded power supply. This is 240 watts, which is more than enough for this. And there is also a SATA port power here, but I don't think the board even has SATA. Not sure. A good thing to know because I can add a cable so I can archive those discs too. Yeah, but I don't see anything. Yeah, I don't think this version has SATA. Nope. No. I don't see anything at all. Oh, weird. Probably the power supply is also used on a version with SATA. Yeah. Let me put this thing back together. Point the camera to the screen because I still don't have like a good way to capture video. And show you what I do with this most of the time. Be right back again. Okay, let me power this thing on and see what I do in the software side. Chattel. This is the SCSI card BIOS. It just look up for random hard drive or any kind of device connector. Let me first boot into the Linux side of this. You can see it's a pretty old version, and I'm doing that because hardware support. So I can do stuff like SCSI work great here. The parallel port devices also work great, like zip drives. Everything related to old stuff, even NetWare, which I compile in this kernel I'm running here, works amazing. Like network access into the network and stuff, that works great. What I mostly do with this, and you can see it's running a web server, SSH, NFS, so I can move files around in the network from this to my computer, and I can remote into this. This is also running Telnet, because at this point SSH is kind of annoying because this version is really old. But yeah, it's great. So I can move files pretty easy around. If I want to just plug in a thumb drive, mount it on the computer and move files around, that also works great. So I mostly use this for file and disk imaging. You can see I have some images here. And if I look into the save commands, I have stuff like DD, rescue. I also run sleep here, PPP, mgetty, so I can use stuff with modems. This version of Linux is just great. It doesn't have systemd, which is nice. But yeah, that's mostly what I do here on Linux on this computer. This is booting by default because when I need an image or write a floppy disk or something like that, I just power it on, connect it to the network, and I can remotely access, which is really, really handy. Let me reboot, and now I will go into the DOS and Windows side of things. Microsoft bootloader, so I can switch between XP and Windows 98. Let's go into DOS first. You can see it's dropping me there because I mostly use DOS on this for the Ghost tool. You can see I have several files here. And Ghost, I think it's a really great handy tool because it's really easy to use. So I can share file with other people that are not running Linux. Maybe they don't know how to resize partitions. This thing is great. It runs on Windows, modern Windows, and old DOS, so you can use almost anything to write a disk. The cool thing is this resize on the fly, so and it has compression. Sadly, these files are not compatible with DD or like raw imaging tools. But yeah, when I want to share a file, I normally upload this and the DD file from the original drive, so I have both options. Let me choose one file. You can see that was like a 30 meg images, and this shows the source as 120 meg, which was the original size of the hard drive. And it's just checking the file system, you can see. So this is like file aware, and there is a issue with this file. I think there was an issue with the hard drive, but yeah, and then Ghost failed. Yeah, that was an issue I have with Ghost running on DOS. I made that image just fine on Windows. I don't know why that happened. I guess that was just probably a corrupt file or something causing that issue. So you have to keep that into consideration with Ghost. It's kind of weird. ID info. You don't have like random tools like this. This is to detect. You know, for example, this is the drive information, the cylinder head. So you have like compact flash that you don't know this information, and the computer you are going to install it request it. You have utilities like this. What else I have here? Well, some laptop backups, files, utilities, drivers. So I can load into Windows 98. I have to type the win command. Windows 98 help me access the network, help me access USB drives. But I discovered something recently is that this computer mounts FAT32 drives on DOS. By default, they do some kind of redirecting, so a thumb drive appears as a hard drive if you plug the drive before powering on the computer, which I think it's amazing because it works in DOS just fine, and you don't have to deal with drivers or anything. It's really, really handy to move in files. I recently discovered that this computer do that. So I don't use Windows too much anymore to move files because I can just use Windows. I mean DOS. I have some tools here though, like this speed test utility for benchmarking hard drives, and I can run Windows software if I want to test something. Like I got this floppy disk. It was like some kind of insurance software. So yeah, I can test that kind of stuff. Let me go into the last operating system I have here. Doesn't want to go. Restart. Okay. Which is Windows XP. Windows XP helped me work with NTFS stuff, you know, the more modern Windows things. Let me boot into that and I will show you what I do. Okay, so I'm booting into Windows. You can see I don't have drivers installed for the computer except for network because file moving. Yeah, I mostly have this for a couple of utilities. I'm testing more modern hardware like PCI video cards, that kind of stuff. AGP that needs Windows XP, and it's easier than dealing with the whole Windows 98 being too old and too picky with drivers sometimes. Mostly stuff on XP works fine. Also running here WinImage and the Windows version of Ghost. Let me see if I can get into the desktop, which is the same thing as you can see, same utility. This is a little bit newer, but works exactly the same, and it's 100% compatible with the DOS version. But this doesn't crash with weird hard drive issues. So you can see I have that file from a Great laptop. I created just fine. If I run the check, I think it should check it just fine. Great. Yes. And yeah, it's running great. It's way faster on Windows because it's just faster. It's a newer version. I think it's way faster than the 2001. Also, I keep some files and stuff from laptops, drivers, utilities. These are the original installed laptop disk for a NEC laptop. So I just deal with that mostly. Let me just turn this off. Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick video showing this because I think it's an amazing tool. Works great. It's really handy if you mostly play with old PCs. Maybe it's not the best for Macs and stuff like that, but still you can write a ton of format here. This is sadly not like those Flux image writers, but you can write a ton of stuff here, like some Mac boot floppies, Unix, PC, random stuff like that. Also, you can archive this into the old ways at this point, which is just making DD images. But for me, this thing just pays by itself by having the utility to archive the disk. Some people don't like to archive stuff in the sense of getting old computers and just copying all the files. I find it kind of interesting because I like to see the history of the computer. Sometimes just checking the files helps with that. I don't normally share that online because why? But sometimes there is interesting software storage in the drive, or drivers are not available, and that's why mostly when I get a computer, I take it apart, plug in the hard drive, make a copy, because there is stuff like the old Great laptops that use custom drivers, custom Windows installed. Without that, you just don't have anything. So this comes in place. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, you get at this point. Thank you very much. I will try to make this video short in editing because I've been recording like 2 hours of me pointing to the screen, this thing, just talking about an open PC. Yeah, bye.